Good morning, everyone. So good morning to this Digital SME Working Group Cyber Workshop on the Cybersecurity Competence Centre pilot project. Today we'll discuss the SME impact and opportunities stemming from the pilot projects. My name is Annika Link and I'm the EU Policy Manager at the European Digital SME Alliance. And as Digital SME, our main priority is to ensure that small and medium-sized enterprises in the digital sector can have a say in policy discussions at the European level. Our aim with this type of workshop is to inform our constituency about topical debates which can have a direct impact on their business in the ICT sector. To organize this workshop, we have partnered up with Cyberwatching.eu, which is the European Observatory of Research and Innovation in the field of cybersecurity and privacy. Cyberwatching contributes to making the digital single market a safer place by promoting the uptake and understanding of cutting-edge cybersecurity and privacy services emerging from research and innovation from across Europe. I would like to welcome all of you to this 90-minute or almost 2-hour discussion where we have 6 presentations. Before going to the topic of the event, I would like to briefly present the European Digital SME Alliance and its working group Cyber. So the working group, well, maybe we can move to the next slide. European Digital SME Alliance is an association, business association. It's moving fast, with 30 members in member associations and clusters. And altogether, we reach out to around 40,000 SMEs in the ICT sector. We're organized as an umbrella association in Brussels, and then the national, regional level, and then the companies. In the association, we work with working groups. So on the next slide, you see the overview of the working groups. And working group Cyber is the working group that deals with cybersecurity and data protection. On the next slide, you can see the chairperson. We have 40 members in the group, and they come from different countries. We really want to ensure visibility of SME positions at the level, but also enable access to standardization discussions, because this is important in cybersecurity, allow the companies to exchange information, but also build a network of cybersecurity SMEs from across Europe. And yeah, maybe coming back to the, if you move forward with the slides, working group Cyber. In the past, we've been working on different position papers, for instance, on the Competence Centre, but also on standardization. The latest one on the NIS directive, which we're still, that is the latest one we've been working on. And then we've also been having a couple of activities. Yeah, this is what you can see here. And then on the next slide, you will see also the activities in terms of a label that we're issuing together with EXO on cybersecurity made in Europe, and yeah, our participation in the different groups. And then finally, what we also do is organizing these kind of workshops where we try to bring across topics that are important for SMEs in cybersecurity, but also data protection. So the latest one was on the Schrems 2 case and data transfers. Yeah, but with that, I would like to come back to the topic of the event. So during the event, each of the pilot projects will be presented. We will be discussing what they are piloting, the impact this might have on the Competence Centre once it's implemented, and any opportunities for SMEs or digital innovation hubs to be engaged. SMEs are key stakeholders for ensuring European cybersecurity, and the regulation establishing the Competence Centre acknowledges this. Therefore, there should be significant opportunities for SMEs to engage with the Centre through participation in the pilots, membership of the community, and engagement with the network. The European Cybersecurity Competence Centre and Network is an initiative between member states, the Commission and ENISA to improve and strengthen technology and industrial cybersecurity capacities of the EU and to help create a safe online environment. And it will be based in Bucharest and coordinate the 27 national competence centers and the community. So I would like to hand over now to our 6 distinguished speakers who will help to shed light on how SMEs can engage with the center and answer your questions. So I would like to welcome representatives from the 4 European pilot projects, as well as the European Commission and ENISA. And our first speaker today is Mr. James Galan Jones, who is a policy officer with DG Connect. And he is currently focusing on 5G security and setting up the European Cybersecurity Competence Centre in Bucharest. Good morning, James.
Good morning, Annika. Happy to be here.
Good morning. Thank you so much. Sorry, there's a slight delay. I didn't want to cut you. And then we have as the second speaker, Mr. Stelian Brad, who is full professor in intelligent robotics and innovation engineering at the Technical University of Cluj-Napoca. Good morning, Stelian.
Good morning, Annika. Good morning to everyone. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. And then we have Ms. Raina Stamboliska, who is the Vice President, Governance and Public Affairs at Yes, We Hack, a global bug bounty and coordinated disclosure leader. She focuses on cyber diplomacy and resilience, including issues related to cybersecurity, strategic autonomy, and data protection. Good morning, Raina.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here and for the invitation.
And then we have Matteo Merialdo, who will be presenting ECHO. Matteo is an experienced project manager with over 16 years of experience in system architecture and technical project management, with a focus on security by design and cyber risk analysis. Good morning, Matteo. And then we have Nicolas Cortelis, who holds a PhD in computer science and engineering from the University of South Florida. He's done research at Yahoo and Telefonica Research. Good morning, Nicolas.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to be here.
Morning. And then finally, we have Prokopios Troukaris, who is cybersecurity expert in policy development and implementation at the European Union Agency for Cybersecurity, ENISA. Good morning, Prokopios.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. And with this short introduction, I would like to hand over to the speakers now. We have some short instructions here. The event will be recorded. We are not live streaming it, however, so please, but still in any case, please remember that it's an informal debate and that speakers may sometimes comment in their personal capacity. So for the audience, please do not attribute quotes to individual speakers. And to ask your questions, we strongly encourage you to ask questions, so you can use the question box or raise your hand and we will give you the floor. And yeah, with that, I would like to hand over to James for the introduction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Annika. And if there's any problem with sound or delay, please feel free to interrupt me or see if I can solve it. But no, thank you very much for the invitation. I think it's great. Happy to be here on behalf of the Commission, and extremely thrilled to have a discussion with the 4 pilots who have been really at the cornerstone of our drive and initiative towards implementing the centre. And I think their insights and expertise is definitely valuable. And I don't need to repeat myself here. I think we can all agree that cybersecurity is a top priority for all of us, and a top priority for the Commission, and also a cornerstone for our digital and connected Europe. If we look, for example, last year's ENISA's Threat Landscape 2020 report, we saw that 71% of organizations experienced malware activity that spread from one employee to another. And of course, that's also including the SMEs. And as you're aware, in December, we had the EU cybersecurity strategy. We presented it to bolster Europe's collective resilience against cyber threats. Accompanying that, there was the NIS Security Directive that you also commented on from the Digital SME Alliance. And it's a priority file for 2021, as identified in the joint declaration between the three institutions. There's also the joint cyber unit that was set up to create space needed to bring together the four main cyberspace communities, namely the civil, law enforcement, diplomatic, and military communities. However, we just don't want to create a new body. This joint unit will be sort of a virtual and physical platform, building on existing blocks and objectives. Also, we have in dealing in cybersecurity, the 5G security strand. We're in the new cybersecurity strategy. We reaffirmed that the rollout of secure 5G networks is a key priority. But more importantly, perhaps also on funding programs. The Commission is aware that to rise to the challenge, it obviously needs ambitious investment. Funding for cybersecurity for 2021-2027 multi-annual financial framework is envisaged under the Digital Europe programme and for cybersecurity research under Horizon Europe. This could amount to over 2 billion euros, considering also member states and industry investments that would come in and contribute towards that. Investments in the entire digital technology supply chain should amount to at least 20% of the recovery and resilience facility. That is around 134 billion out of 672 in grants and in loans. And the Commission, we're doing our best to try and ensure that cybersecurity is sufficiently addressed in the national plans for the RRF as well. And of course, Horizon Europe is the cornerstone for supporting research and innovation. And I'd like to draw everyone's attention also to the opportunities offered by the Digital Europe programme. I know it's not entirely adopted yet, but it's still in the pipeline. And so to the centre, the cornerstone of the centre in two words, it's about capacities and competitiveness, but working together with a network of national coordination centres. So the centre would be at the core of this entire network, but then the member states would come and feed into it. And I think more importantly to note is the role of the community and the role of SMEs in that regard. The European Cybersecurity Competence Centre and network would be Europe's new framework to support innovation and industrial policy in cybersecurity. The ecosystem would aim to strengthen the capacities of the cybersecurity, technology, and research community, but also to shield our economy and society from cyber attacks, and more importantly, maintain research excellence and reinforce the competitiveness of the EU industry in this field. Now, the centre, to go a bit more into detail on the tasks, the centre and the network will make strategic investment decisions and pull resources from the EU and its member states, and indirectly through industry to improve and strengthen technology and industrial cybersecurity capacities, but also enhance the EU's open strategic autonomy. And the centre will play a key role in delivering on the ambitious objectives of the Digital Europe programme and Horizon Europe programmes. And here I can't stress enough as well the importance of dialogues with industry, whose funding and support will be invaluable, really, to make this work and make this happen. The centre, together with the network, will support the deployment of solutions. It will also facilitate collaboration and sharing of expertise and of sharing of capacities, and among all relevant stakeholders. And also, when we see public entities, it's not to forget also that academia and research institutes and bodies obviously play definitely a crucial role here. as well as public authorities in the community. As you probably heard, the regulation entered into force on the 28th of June. So the clock has started ticking for us to deliver according to the rules laid out in the regulation. One of the first deliverables is for the Commission to produce a guidelines for the Nccs, so for the member states, who will have to nominate their bodies nationally to us formally. So then we can start kicking off the work in the strategic thinking. And when I say strategic thinking, is that, as you've probably seen, the EU has many EU agencies, whether they're decentralized or joint undertakings, and these take a certain amount of time to set up. So we foresee for 2021 to be initially a setup phase operationally. So we're looking at having offices in Bucharest. We're looking into getting financial autonomy, but that would perhaps come throughout in the course of 2022, I would expect. And to be able to kind of plan ahead, the governing boards actually already met on an ad hoc basis yesterday. The members are being formally appointed by the member states. So the governing board is the management body of the centre, represented by the member states directly. The Commission and ENISA are observers. And in this regard, the strategic reflection has already started into how to set up the community. For example, how would we deal with consortiums applying for EU grants? Because as you know, EU funding obeys very strict rules and laws that we all have to abide by. And this is to try and understand how the community will be set up with the Nccs. So at this stage, there aren't major milestones other than the fact that the regulation is now into force. Strategic thinking has been initiated. The Nccs will be nominated soon, and I would expect that most of the setup phase, at least, would be done by the end of this year. Now, the governing board will provide strategic orientation and oversee the centre's activities. The executive director of the centre, who is the centre's legal representative and responsible for day-to-day management. But we will then also have a strategic advisory group that ensures a comprehensive, ongoing and permanent dialogue between the community and the competence centre. So you can see these three kind of pieces of the puzzle, whether it's the centre, the member states and the community, will each have their role to play in carrying out, implementing projects, be it research or also deployment of certain cybersecurity technology. So I think that was me trying to give you an overview of the centre. I would perhaps leave it to the pilots to explain in more detail their work, and happy to answer any questions you may have, and looking forward to the panel discussion later.
Thank you so much, James. Yes, I think indeed that was a great overview, and yeah, also good to hear that things are taking up, that the governing board is meeting, and that things are moving forward. So with that, I would also suggest we go to the pilots now, and we have the presentations from the pilots. Still, participants can already ask questions in between, because we don't want to have one block just of presentations and then no interaction. So after the end of each presentation on each pilot, we can have 1 or 2 questions and then move to the next one, just to make it a bit more interactive. So yeah, with that, please over to Celia.
Thank you for inviting me to have this presentation. I use this opportunity, being the first one, to introduce one of the 4 pilot projects, to say that definitely cybersecurity is a complicated, it's a sophisticated issue we are facing now in Europe as well as all over the world. The economy is going to become more and more digital. I'm not talking only about digital economy, but also about digitalized economy. So therefore, the capacity of organizations, communities and ecosystems to protect against any kind of cyber threat, it's extremely important. So this is actually the motivation having today for initiatives in Europe, each of them trying to understand this complexity and to the end having a convergence of technology to try to do the best in having the institutional construction at the European level for cyber security. One of these initiatives is, and I'm proud to have this opportunity to introduce you, is Cybersecurity for Europe. It's one of the projects that is financed by the European Commission in the Horizon 2020 program, and I also like to thank the European Digital SME Alliance to offer us this opportunity to introduce the project. And the major focus of the project, actually, in terms of this initiative, there are 4 important pillars to focus on, as it was mentioned in the previous speech. One of the important areas in the field of cybersecurity at European level will be the research and innovation, and more than this, the capacity to fast transfer the results to industry. The second pillar, it's about increasing the awareness of communities as well as organizations of any kind about the importance of cybersecurity in everyday activity on a strategic level. So education and training are important topics in this respect, considering all layers, all level of, let's say, players to the level of these ecosystems. And nevertheless, the idea of having a fast interoperability and a synchronization between different initiatives, and this is strongly related with what we call standardization. The third important pillar is the design of the governance of the European network in this area, as well as having a complicated job to do here. Piloting is very important for any innovation. And the last pillar is the communication and community building. I will just highlight a few things with respect to all of these 4 pillars, but I'd like to introduce you a little bit the ecosystem of cybersecurity for Europe project. You see a lot of partners covering 22 countries, over 100 associates and friends, centers of excellence, research institutions, SMEs, universities, part of this initiative. Case studies to base the building of the know-how with respect to these topics, as well as working groups from different European institutions such as EXCO members, and of course different networks that nowadays are operational in this area. Also, this project is scheduled to end next year, so somehow in close connection with the construction of the center in Bucharest, as well as afterwards the network at European level on cybersecurity. Coming back to the 4 pillars, in terms of the research, innovation, and transfer to industry, in this project, we are investigating 3 important areas. So, a blueprint design and how to build up the capacity for common research. the roadmap on research and development on cybersecurity, as well as demonstrations. So different use cases that will provide capacity to understand the complexity, challenges, as well as the potential of a European lab in this area. Whereas in the education, training, and standardization, yes, we have three pillars. Again, standardization is an important aspect, but also development of open tools to assist communities and to support community building in this respect, development of specific infrastructure, and validation. And on the human side, we have to focus on skills on cybersecurity and capability building. The third pillar, it's about the governance. So talking about the initiative of having the European Centre on Cybersecurity in Bucharest, as well as the national competence centers, definitely cybersecurity for Europe is going to provide content to assist this construction at strategic operational level, procedures, different areas of activities. So a vision, something like CERN, that is now operational in Geneva, somehow that philosophy to be translated in building up this network at European level on cybersecurity. Whereas for communication and community building, in the project there are different actions undertaken for dissemination, for increasing awareness and empowering communities. And of course, I would like here to highlight something which is very important with respect to small and medium-sized enterprises. Of course, at the governance level, there are tasks for collecting different information from different stakeholders to assess different governance practices and to build up governance structures. It is important to highlight here the fact that bottom-up advice is a core philosophy in this project, and in this respect it is encouraged to develop the so-called checks, community hubs for expertise in cybersecurity knowledge. Within the project will be investigated different initiatives that are capable to be validated as checks. Of course, these constructions will expect to work very close to the national competence centers. To this date, there are investigated capacities in several regions in Europe. There is a pilot regional competence hub in France, in Toulouse, in Denmark, a national hub candidate, and we have in Romania already a validated Czech Cluj IT cluster, which is going to operate at regional level. Another Czech that is already part of this construction is in Spain, in Murcia, and at national level there are investigated other capacities in Norway, in Finland, in Italy, as you see in this slide. It is something important to highlight here to make the differentiation about the EU cybersecurity ecosystem. So European Cybersecurity Competence Centre in Bucharest, together with the network, the 27 national competence centers and the checks, mainly envisaged to focus on increasing awareness, education on cybersecurity at European level, the ecosystem development and community building, research innovation in cybersecurity, SME support, and assistance to increase resilience of any kind of organizations in European Union on cybersecurity, standardization, etc. Whereas for technical intervention, recently European Commission has decided to set up a new initiative which is called Joint European Cyber Unit. So this is a hot information, I would say. And just a few words about this. It happened on the 23rd of June, and this joint cyber unit is going to tackle with the cyber incidents that impact public services as the quality of the businesses and citizens across the European Union. There are many operation participants that are going to be part in this joint initiative. As you can see, ENISA, Europol, the CERTs at national levels, the Commission, of course, the European External Action Service, etc. And to this also will include supporting participants such as the European Defence Agency, the Cooperation Group Chair, and other important institutions, including here the relevant PESCO, I mean the Permanent Structured Cooperation Projects. And with respect with this joint cybersecurity, ENISA and the CERT.eu will develop the network in the direction of having the European Cyber Shield, including security operations centers and ISACs, information sharing and analysis centers. Actually, CERTs most probably will be transformed into ISACs. And there are four important directions here. One is the EU law enforcement emergency response protocol to deal with crisis, cross-border crisis on cyber attacks. Is the cyber diplomacy community that will promote and protect a global, open, and stable, secure cyberspace, and will have a common policy and measures for in terms of security policy. We have the third direction, cyber defense community, meaning a common security and defense policy missions with interfaces with this joint cyber unit, as well as will be encouraged the private sector to be engaged in this joint initiative to provide any kind of information, data with respect to threats to enhance the capacity and intelligence to respond quickly to different incidents. So this was my major points that I intended to introduce to you. Of course, questions and discussions that will follow will be very much welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stilian. As you were the first speaker, I think it would be interesting to compare also the presentations from the others, but maybe just to have a quick idea of how you see it, because you're talking about the sort of top-down and bottom-up approach. And well, one of the questions is, of course, SMEs are the largest business community. They're really important for our economy, so they're at the heart of this effort to increase cybersecurity resilience. So how do you see SMEs being involved and integrated in all of that?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. Actually, it's an important issue because definitely, as I have mentioned in the presentation, the issue of protecting businesses and of course, SMEs are important players at European Union level. It's a topic that is one of the headlines for cybersecurity for Europe. Actually, this construction called checks will be those that are going to relay very close with SMEs, let's say at regional levels, to provide them assistance, to get information, as well as to introduce also technologies and training for SMEs. Nevertheless, these checks will be in close contact with the national competence centers. So through them, any kind of issues raised up by SMEs can be aggregated and communicated upstream. So from this perspective, we see at operational level a strong connection of SMEs with this philosophy of networking through national competence centers and to the end to the European Competence Centre on Cybersecurity.
Okay, thank you, Stilian. So let's hand over to Rainer to present, to present Sparta. Rainer, sorry, I got confused because I saw your microphone, which looks so professional. That's really cool. Okay, floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Annika. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you to everyone for attending. And yeah, sorry, as I was saying just before we started, trying to have like a clean sound for everyone because, you know, to avoid people getting headaches, especially early in the morning. So I won't be showing slides today. Not because I don't have them, but because I would like to focus more the discussion towards a discussion rather than me, showing new slides. So very quickly, Sparta is one of the 4 pilot projects that we are discussing this morning. And it has the same way as Cybersec for Europe has 4 pillars that describe how basically the pilot is aiming to reimagine the way cybersecurity research, innovation, and training happen in Europe. So the first pillar is develop unique but concrete innovation paths. So this happens through 4 projects that I will briefly describe later on. Of course, there is a very strong emphasis on collaboration and on community building. So that is why second pillar is to set up shared and also virtual spaces for collaboration. The third pillar, obviously, we share the same ambition here, the same goal is to strengthen certification efforts, outreach, and training capacities, because I think colleagues also have projects on those topics, and we do need to continue building skill sets in Europe today. And last but never the least, is from a bird eye perspective, if you like, is put together a European ecosystem, but also consolidate national and even regional ecosystems that participate under the umbrella of a European one. And so the overarching goal of those 4 pillars is basically to contribute to building European strategic autonomy. So The pilot comprises 44 founding partners, of which yes, we hack that I'm also representing is a member. So there are a total of, if my memory serves, 8 companies involved, which makes up roughly for 20% of all founding partners, and half of those companies are SMEs. So are we, and you know, the other partners span academia, industry, obviously, but also institutions like government agencies, but also grassroots organizations. And they are also spanning the bulk of the member states. So how is the whole project, you know, functioning? Before the submission happened, a roadmap, a first draft of the roadmap was set up that aimed to identify opportunities for specific research areas and applicative domains, and of course to mitigate risks linked to those opportunities. Basically, inputs from the larger community were sought for, also to have a very, you know, real world vision of things. Then, of course, you know how such a project, such a huge project is structured. Different partners were approached for proposals. Then the whole big project proposal was accepted, and specified work plans that are executed. And so you have this regular measure and plan, do, check, act, you know, continuous improvement approach. So there are, as I was saying, a core 4 activities in addition to the roadmap design that is regularly updated. And so those 4 programs make up the core research, development, and innovation activities. There are 2 other work packages that make up the community activities, and 3 other work packages that focus on outreach, exploitation, if you like, not in the cybersecurity sense of the word, which are basically linked to partnerships, widening the network, outgoing communications. So the four core research, development, and innovation activities are, as I was saying, 4 work packages. So the first one is called T-Shark, and basically its objective is to expand the reach of threat understanding, of course, from the current investigation level definition to strategic considerations, and kind of circle back to real-time events. So far, its capabilities are to thoroughly supervise critical systems, including when they are not provided or integrated by EU actors, and to raise, obviously, awareness about those challenges, and to also reach out to citizens for involvement. The second program is called CAPE, for continuous assessment in polymorphous environments, and so it's a quite technical in the sense that its objective is to enhance assessment processes and to be able to perform continuously over hardware and software life cycles under changing environments. So far, its capabilities are to drastically increase evaluation capacity in, you know, in a world where, well, most of the components are developed outside of the EU. and obviously to lay the grounds for future certification. So if you hear or read between the lines, supply chain, yes, that's kind of what's in scope. The third package is HIT, which basically aims to manage the heterogeneity of the connected everything of the Internet of Things by providing a secure by design infrastructure, which ambitions, if you like, to offer end-to-end security guarantees. And so far, the capabilities it has are to simplify the deployment of IoT applications and obviously towards, looking to the future, facilitate their certification. And last but never the least is the fourth R&D and I activity, which is Sapphire, which is secure and fair AI systems. So the goal is to evaluate the security of AI systems and to produce approaches that make systems which use AI more robust to attacker manipulation. And I think James was mentioning the Digital Europe program. There is, for example, a topic in the Digital Europe program that specifically addresses, for instance, poisoning data sets that are used to train AI systems. So, of course, Sapphire has an additional goal, which is to make AI systems more reliable and resilient through enhanced explainability, if you like. So going beyond the obscurity of algorithms that we suffer from today, and thus to better understand threats. So far, the capability is exploratory. And if you are interested to see demonstrators, read research, please head to SPARTA.eu website, where you'll see you have everything that's produced and released so far. And so I was saying in the beginning, we have the roadmap, continuous, if you like, improvement, revision to account for what happens in the real world and how threats and opportunities evolve. And so the roadmap basically is the core outlook, if you like, that presents Sparta's mission, which is to establish a European cybersecurity research and innovation roadmap, obviously. So there, the idea being, the rationale being that by consolidating the EU cybersecurity capacity through technology, services, applications, and products, we'll also be able to close the skill gaps and prepare for future challenges, which those are all essential to, well, retaining digital sovereignty and autonomy of the European industries and governments, and ultimately increase citizens' trusts in products, services, and infrastructures. So again, you can see the first version of the roadmap and the reviewed version are available on the website. As long as, or as far as the outreach efforts go, Sparta has also developed an associate and a friends program to go beyond, if you like, the 44 founding members. So the associate program is to establish traction with European national and regional ecosystems, including from actors that are based in EU member states or within the EE, which are not currently involved with the founding partners or any other pilot. So the idea is to relay concrete requirements, to also bolster more disruptive ideas, and of course aim to produce novel results through multi-level and cross-network actions and events. So there are different benefits that come from that program that can be summed up as associates having a privileged access to the know-how and competence for participating at EU and nationally funded projects in cooperation with SPARTA. So there are currently more than 90 associates and friends. The friends approach, if you like, is slightly less less of a commitment, which comes with fewer benefits, obviously, because their commitment is proportionate to benefits, but which is also normal in the sense that you can provide valuable contribution in many different ways, and this is also why we have thought of those different levels, if you like, of involvement from different stakeholders. So far, so basically the way we are aiming to organize this and organizing this is to have regular workshops, sharing insights, collaborating on projects, and having obviously brokerage events to continue pulling the Spartan partnership together and to introduce the partners, the associates, the friends, and build successful partnerships for different initiatives. And now that we hopefully will start traveling again, it will be a great opportunity to also provide travel grants for stakeholders, for associates, most obviously, to participate in regular workshops, dedicated events such as the Sparta Week, and other presence that Sparta may have at big events. And so as it happens, I'm responsible for the travel grants. So, happy to talk this further with other, colleagues who might want to join Sparta as associates and benefit from those travel grants. And I think I'm done. I hope it didn't take too long. So please feel free to ask any questions. And of course, obviously, very much looking forward to our joint discussion after the presentations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rena. Yeah, that was really, really comprehensive, interesting in terms of the roadmap and getting research results also to concrete solutions and how to do that. We have a question that is going a little bit in that direction, so I would like to quickly take that up from the audience. Mm-hmm. If we could briefly give the floor to Jean-Louis Reynard. Mm-hmm.
Jean-Louis.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Annika. Thank you, Rena. It was very great and very comprehensive indeed. I had just one question. It seems to be very good initiatives, but my concern is that in the meantime there are a lot of ransomware attack, a lot of cybersecurity events, impacting all SMEs in all industries. So I was wondering what we could do, let's say as a quick fix or as the direct measure to increase cybersecurity awareness for end users in SMEs, or possibly, increasing technical measures. For example, I had in mind, maybe to ask our IT provider to patch their applications to remove exploitable vulnerabilities. I mean, to help in the meantime while we put in place all these governing bodies and so on. Thank you very much.
Thank you for bringing this. So there are two answers to this. So the first one is that I didn't mention, but there is the Sparta Joint Competence Center infrastructure, which is a specific task, that is devoted to creating a common working environment where cyber ranges are being created. So this is one thing which can be an interesting approach to the very least, anticipating that sort of security incidents of all sorts that can very quickly grow into security, based or caused crisis situations. Then Sparta is a research, development and innovation project. It is not a service provision, if you like, item or entity, in the sense that it doesn't aim to provide services to third parties, such as crisis management or digital forensics or things like this. However, which is interesting here is that yes, we have participation that I'm spearheading works to go even beyond, if you like, or even ahead of an incident happening, through basically promoting policies and providing guidelines and research observations on vulnerability management, in the sense that I think we all agree that it's better to anticipate rather than have to repair broken things afterwards. So our involvement is also very much in line with requirements that come through the Cyber Act about imposing vulnerability disclosure policies and programs to certified entities that provide cybersecurity products. So that's one of ENISA's mandates. But also in the NIS version 2 directive, you have a specific provision that will very strongly incentivize the target entities to implement vulnerability disclosure and vulnerability management policies. So basically, this is our kind of input here, very specific, where basically the idea is to have everyone, not just state actors, not just academia, but also small entities, understand that since vulnerabilities are ever present, our shared responsibility is ever present, which also aligns with the global vision of the Commission and the EU in general, if you want, that cybersecurity is a whole of society approach. So this is basically how we're addressing this. Obviously, that doesn't solve everything, but we are humble enough to not have the idea of solving every problem, and I don't think any of our colleagues today has that ambition. So, but again,
yeah, that sounds great, Rina. Thank you so much. Maybe we can also give the floor then to our colleagues to see if they want to contribute to this. But I would first like to give the floor to Matteo from ECHO to present that pilot. So Matteo, handing over to you, please.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody. Let me just share my screen. I guess you can see my screen now.
Not yet, but maybe my connection is slow as well, because I see a thumbs up from others.
Yes, Matteo, I can see it.
Okay, fantastic. So let me put in presentation mode. Good. So something is happening. Okay, so thanks a lot for inviting me here. I'm Matteo Merialdo. I'm the project implementation coordinator for the ECO project, and I work as Deputy Business Unit Manager in Security Services Division in RIA Group. So I will go a little bit through a high-level presentation of the project, and also maybe it's more important, more relevant, where we are right now with the project itself. So in terms of successes, in terms of what we developed, etc. So the general concept behind ECO starts from a set of challenges that we identified within the European Union, that those were the drivers for writing out our proposal and then to implement the project itself. So we decided to focus on the lack of multi-sector technology assessment, on the lack of multi-sector assessment frameworks. So the possibility to assess risks in a multi-sector fashion, a multi-sector scope. We also we also identified that there were lacks on the identification of dependencies between different sectors. So still in a risk analysis perspective, but it's quite difficult with the actual frameworks to understand the dependencies between different sectors. We wanted to focus a lot on emulation environments, and then we implemented that with quite a strong focus on cyber ranges, but we believe that emulation and simulation environments going towards digital twins is quite not an important topic for, I mean, worldwide in cybersecurity, but also, of course, for Europe. There was clearly, even if now is quite well addressed, or is in the process of being addressed by ENISA, of the skills framework. So the possibility to transform the skills need into actually training curriculum, probably also even using modern technology like cyber ranges, gamification, etc. And then, and that's something where we focus quite a lot of energy and effort, we identified the lack of information sharing in cybersecurity, in the cybersecurity domain. So the possibility to share warnings, threats, threat information, threat intelligence, etc., across multiple hundreds of organizations and filtered or potentially filtered for different sectors. That's something that, for example, also the European Space Agency, with which we work quite a lot as a company, is addressing right now, because it's an important topic on the space sector, but definitely also in other sectors. So those were the main challenges where we decided to focus our proposal. And then out of that, we created the ECO consortium, the ECO project. The main objectives, coming back and in connection to the challenges that we identified, were definitely, of course, demonstrate a network of cyber center of competencies. So demonstrate how to work together with a large number of partners, not only on dissemination, exploitation, awareness, but really also on developing technologies. That's something quite important that I think it's one of our most success. And then we wanted to work, of course, in order to solve the challenges that we identified on information sharing, so models for information sharing and early warning system, working on cyber skills and cyber skill framework, and then working on in connection to the multi-sector assessment on the possibility to extract technology roadmaps connected to risks and opportunities. So ECO is actually composed by 30 initial partners plus 7 partners that recently joined the consortium, and then we have quite a plethora of like we call them club members, which are involved in a light way. But the partners that we recently joined the consortium are really involved in the technical activities with different level of involvement, of course. And the coordination is provided by the Royal Military Academy, and the technical coordination and the implementation, in fact, is provided by my company. So the main pillars of the project, and again, coming back to the challenges that I identified at the beginning, can be structured around those main bullets. So defining a governance model for the network of center of competencies, as a suggestion, as input for the future governance model that is being written in these days for the network of center of competencies. Then we decided to focus on multi-sector assessment. I will come to that later. On certification scheme for products. We believe that that's quite an important topic for digital sovereignty and digital Europe, of course. We decided to implement an early warning system, so really a system able to manage early warnings, share threat intelligence, collect threat intelligence, etc., across hundreds of organizations. We wanted to extend the cyber range technology as much as possible towards the concept of federation. I will come back to that a little bit later. And then we work on a cyber skill framework, which is very tight to the usage of cyber range as means to provide at least a part of training curricula, basically. So really in a nutshell, because I don't want to take up too much of your time, we developed this multi-sector assessment framework, which is really a risk assessment framework. We have an Excel tool that can be used to provide assessment. And the main goal of the framework is to analyze the risk from a multi-sector perspective. So what is the risk in case of an event that is starting from space, for example, on the GPS or navigation system or whatever, and then reflecting on a ship that is sailing in the sea. So this type of situation are quite difficult to be analyzed with the current risk assessment frameworks, and that's what basically we wanted to add our added value. So we have a prototype which is working, and we will keep working on that up to the end of the project. We use the multi-sector assessment framework also in order to assess risks, opportunities, and challenges in different technology aspects, and we use it in order to derive a set of technology roadmaps. So technology roadmaps is quite a common ground for all the pilot projects, and we focus on 6 technology roadmaps in which we are working right now. Some of them we are implementing prototypes, some others we are going only to describe what could be the type of technology useful in order to solve a set of challenges that we identified. For the cyber skill and training curriculum, the general idea was at the start to define an ontology where basically a full data model and ontology were to define skills and the possibility to cover those skills via training. And then we developed this framework which aim is basically to tailor the need to import the needs from the organization and tailor a training curriculum as much tailored as possible. So we are piloting that with 3 different training curriculum which are dedicated to 3 different sectors, energy, maritime, and healthcare. And the general idea is that once the training curriculum will be completed, there will be also part of the training curriculum to be provided by sector-specific cyber ranges that we are developing right now. So we will start the first demonstration in the next 4 or 5 months because it's quite advanced. I mean, all the theory part of the framework part is ready. Now we are really using it and validating it because, of course, there is a need of validation. We work on certification, and the general idea behind certification was to be based on the EU certification framework and to extract profiles for sector-specific products. So basically, we created a methodology in order to extract protection profile. Of course, we are basing ourselves quite a lot on common criteria, but the general idea is to define the profile, the security target, and extract security controls that then can be tested over the product itself. So we will pilot that and we will validate that with 2 different schemas for one healthcare product and one maritime product, still related to cybersecurity. And the general idea is that then we want to validate the schema in this way. For what regards the early warning system, as I was saying, that's really a system, so a software, quite a complex software that we developed. And the general idea is that we wanted to have a tool able to share threat intelligence information, incident information, early warning information, but also to extract and to create, to correlate early warnings, starting from warnings, from incidents coming from the different organizations or from the threat intelligence. So the early warning system is quite complex. It can work in a clustered mode, in distributed mode, peer-to-peer, etc., etc. And we are actually piloting it with quite a huge number of project participants and project beneficiaries. And of course, it has all a set of features like reference library to correlate information. It can be tailored to single sectors, for example, and that's a little bit of the picture that we want to give when we talk about the early warning system. So it can work at many different layers, the layer of the single organization and as an incident management tool, with also the capability to download and correlate the threat intelligence information or other incident information coming from other organizations. It can work in sectoral level. So for example, what are the main threats and the early warnings or even shared incidents in this specific sector. Being energy, maritime, or space, for example. It can work at the national level, and that's basically the idea to tailor it to the network of center of competencies and the national centers, and then of course also at the European level. So the general idea here is that despite the fact that of course we believe in our system, but we also believe quite strongly that the future network of center of competencies will need to be able to manage and govern a system like this one, because that would really give a boost to the entire European cyber resilience. So if organization could have access to threat intelligence information, to early warning information in a cheap and simple way, that would definitely give quite a boost in our general cyber resilience. Also considering SMEs, for example, which definitely they have less means to use expensive tools or expensive threat intelligence data feeds, a system like this one could really give quite a boost to, for example, supply chains, etc. Actually, we have 17 ECO organizations which are connected to the early warning system. We are feeding it with the threat intelligence data, and we are conducting quite constantly tabletop exercise in order to test and validate the system. Of course, when the development will finish this month, then we will enter it a little bit into a serious phase where we really test the system as much as possible with operational data. The other technology roadmap where we are working on, the federated cyber range, basically came from the conclusion that cyber ranges are quite widely used nowadays, but there are several limitations that we analyze related to capacity and capabilities. So the fact that a single cyber range may be extremely specialized into a single sector or to some specific capabilities of attack or type of trainings, etc. But for very large simulation, multiple ranges may be needed. And so we decided to create a system that is able to federate multiple cyber ranges, acting basically at two levels. One is the broker level, so enabling the technical interconnection of multiple ranges, and the other is the marketplace. The marketplace, the concept of the marketplace is basically to offer a place where cyber range provider can publish their services in an Amazon-like fashion or AI for a use fashion, if you want. The general idea is that should give visibility to the providers, which is something that we still have some problems in the market generally, but also allow to create much more complex services, much more complex emulation. Again, also the federated cyber range is almost completed in terms of a system, and now we will validate it through a set of demonstration cases. But the general idea is that the user will be able to assess the marketplace, to select the type of services that he's interested in, or to ask for a custom service, and then the capabilities of the federated cyber range will create a possible solution, maybe federating one or more ranges from the available providers in a pooling and sharing fashion somehow, in order to provide the service that they are interested in. So where we are, basically the development is almost complete. It's going to be completed in this month, and now we will start a set of demonstration cases, which are quite wide and open. About the demonstration cases, they are one of the most complex things that we are working on in ECO, because we decided to have 5 different cases, but each case is going to use more than one asset, and we're also going to involve external stakeholders. So those cases are going to take several months to be performed, but the general idea is that all the tools and the assets and the frameworks that we are developing in ECO are going to be used together in a realistic fashion, let's say. So that's something that we are absolutely open also to have new partners joining and participating. For example, some of the latest partners will directly join a few of these demonstration cases. I'm skipping because I think time
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to interrupt you, but I think we only have like 1 minute left for
Yeah,
for you.
that's good. That's exactly what I need. Perfect.
Okay.
So to conclude, the approach that we took is quite practical. So of course we work quite in a lot of theory, especially for the multi-factor assessment, etc. But we also wanted to have practical outcomes. So software and systems that can be really then exploited to the market. So that was one of the main goal of the project itself. And in terms of active services, we will soon activate the early warning system and the federated cyber range. But something that we already activated is a general cybersecurity bulletin. So we have an AI engine directly in our website that crawls the web and collects cybersecurity relevant information on a day-by-day fashion. That's a free service that we offer at least up to the end of the project, and we'll see. We are open, of course, to include the new partners. We actually have other free partners which are in the joining process, but definitely we are absolutely interested to welcome new partners, especially if they're interested in working on the demonstration cases. And here you have a plethora of contacts, emails, website, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, whatsoever. That was 1 minute.
Thank you so much. Great, Matteo. Thank you so much. We have a few questions, but I would suggest we take them afterwards, just to give enough time for Nicolas and for Kopius. Nicolas, over to you.
Great. I guess I can share my screen, or do you need to give me authorization for that? Yes. Okay. Share my screen. Can you see my screen? Probably.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So let me put this on presentation mode. Can you see the screen still, or yeah?
Yes.
Anyway, I'll get started. My name is Nicolas Cortelis from Telefónica Research in Barcelona, and I'll talk to you a little bit about CONCORDIA. So CONCORDIA is it's one of the 4 pilot projects, as we know. We have up to 60 partners at this point. This is a project that was funded by the Horizon 2020 RIA projects. It has many high qualified universities, research institutions, so big industry, SMEs, public bodies, and other organizations representing more than 20 countries from Europe. And it is still growing, so this is something really exciting. So the common vision of these partners is to integrate the available but still fragmented European cybersecurity competences that we have across Europe into a leading European cybersecurity competence network. CONCORDIA's main objectives are building and positioning CONCORDIA as a European secure, resilient, and trusted cybersecurity ecosystem. CONCORDIA also brings technical, legal, and economical expertise in cybersecurity to European policymakers and industry, and it is already developing a cybersecurity roadmap for Europe based on interaction and exchanges with the broader cybersecurity community and stakeholders. Furthermore, we strive to establish and boost collaboration with the aim to develop new, innovative, and marketable cybersecurity solutions, as well as supporting the development and validation of cybersecurity products by providing the necessary lab infrastructure. Finally, CONCORDIA aims to create a European education ecosystem and modernize training courses with new virtual elements accompanied by the development of curricula, competitions, and cyber ranges. CONCORDIA is going to reach these objectives with a variety of activities, from academia to industry, including education, assistance, and community building. So I'll touch a little bit on each of these pillars. CONCORDIA explores cybersecurity with cutting-edge research on technical, legal, and economical aspects, providing its results to the community. CONCORDIA addresses these 5 layers of research and technology, from device-centric up to user-centric security. Security is an end-to-end systems property and needs to apply across the whole technology stack. The holistic approach is fundamental to allow the industry to grow and provide secure end products. CONCORDIA is open to different industrial use cases and development of new solutions and tools. Currently, CONCORDIA focuses on 5 industrial fields, namely telecom, finance, insurance, e-mobility, e-health, and communication. Additionally, we have a European threat intelligence platform and a DDoS clearinghouse for Europe that is being developed. CONCORDIA constantly explains the changing landscape of cybersecurity to the community with its periodic updates on different channels such as Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And CONCORDIA talks at numerous events, providing expertise on different aspects of cybersecurity. Also, CONCORDIA educates by providing a map of existing courses for cybersecurity professionals, creating new courses, and developing a skill certification scheme, as well as engaging with the current educational cybersecurity ecosystem. Also, CONCORDIA promotes courses, tools, and open positions to the community. Particular attention is paid to promoting diversity in the cybersecurity workforce. CONCORDIA also assists not only startups, that is part of the topic today, it helps them to make them grow, but also the whole community to understand the European instruments and regulations in a better way. Mainly, CONCORDIA connects. We connect people to build the cybersecurity ecosystem by creating trust zones where stakeholders can discuss and exchange relevant information. Now, I'll talk a little bit more about the innovation aspect of CONCORDIA and link a little bit on the SME part. CONCORDIA, the innovation in CONCORDIA goes through these cycles. We have, of course, the innovation that is being built, is being created in the labs, in the research teams. We include different partners in the whole process. There is agility in the process, so this goes on into what we call innovation cycles. We are structured as a project with different work packages, and there is, of course, the fundamental work packages, the first 3 work packages that deal with the idea generation, identification, concept development, evaluation, and selection. These are the first 3 work packages, but then we have external engagement with external stakeholders to get input and output. That's the 4th work package. And then there is stakeholder perspective and opinion collection that goes into work package 5. And this goes on more or less every 12 months. And that's a 4-year project. Right now, we are in the 3rd cycle. Now, the innovation process is where you have the generation and management of ideas. This means you got to go find the scope, find different sources that are relevant to your idea, evaluate these ideas, see if they need any protection, IP protection, I mean, then help these ideas be developed, make sure that they are aligned with the project, how they can balance the long-term and short-term goals with respect to our roadmap as a project. Of course, optimize resources, especially when they are shared between partners. And we have, of course, the exploitation of the idea. So after it has been found and established, then there is the concept of how do you exploit it, how do you license it, for example, how do you commercialize the idea, and finally, how do you look back by receiving input from industry and coming back to the drawing board and see if there are things that you can improve. Maybe you have a new product or you can fix your current one. Within CONCORDIA, what we did is to encourage the partners to develop, to first define these ideas, or as we call them, exploitable results. They can be either tangible results, for example, some software component, a tool, prototype, or something like that, or an intangible result, which can be either a process or a consulting or a document, a report, and then collect all these ideas or results and rank them so that we can push for promotion some key exploitable results. We ask the partners to provide input on different dimensions. I list here a bunch of them. They have to do with either market readiness, availability, or technical readiness, details about the IPR with respect to industry that they are engaging with, and so on and so forth. And then we used a lot of these dimensions to do what we call ranking of the ERs and make sure that we promote the highly valued ones. Some of these ERs, so we had more than 30 ERs declared, some dominance from the industrial, also most of the, well, 60%, there is a typo here, about 60% of the technical maturity were early ones. We had ERs from different sectors, primarily from finance and telco, as well as health. Software and services, so basically tangible results, were more prominent. And then we performed what I said, this ranking. This was done with an industrial strategy committee, and I will touch base on this just in a little bit. And then we did further promotion into incubators, accelerators, stakeholders, and other PR channels. So the Industrial Strategy Committee, this is a committee that we formed at the beginning of the project. It meets twice a year and discusses the technological process and progress of each partner. It looks into these ideas that I mentioned and understands what's more worthy and promotes it, helps others that are not there yet to get to that point. So it guides them. Also, it can help partners to develop business plans if they need to, and formalizes the exploitation strategy for the future. So it's kind of like an innovation funnel where you have all these different ERs. They are ranked based on some criteria, and then you select the top ones. Just a couple of examples. We have the MISP to Flowmon ADS integration. This is Flowmon is an existing company, and it had a product that was of high TRL, technical readiness level, and market readiness level. So by integrating with some components from CONCORDIA, it provided a nice add-on for this existing SME. On the other hand, we had DDoS clearinghouse, which is something that we started more from the fundamental point of view. So it has a lower technical and market readiness level, but it took advantage of the high community within CONCORDIA. So this also became a success story. Both of them were promoted by the EU as nice examples for the future. I talked a little bit about incubators and accelerators. We already have identified 26 different entities. I just list them here if you are interested. We started engaging
Maybe
with them.
Nicholas also, sorry, just to jump in, but you also only have 1 more minute, so we can.
I'll wrap up. Yeah. They have different capitals. They engage in different activities, so we know that we can reach them and engage them for promoting our SMEs. And this is the last slide. So to wrap up, the next steps are to work on the business models of these exploitable results, provide the guidance from the Industrial Strategy Committee, and help them protect IP if needed, or how do they perform licensing, and finally engage the key stakeholders with newsletters and communities. We already started doing that and perform some demos. I'll stop here and take any questions.
Thank you so much. Before giving the floor to Prokopius, I would suggest that we take 1 question from Vincent Lefebvre, please. If we can unmute him and give him the floor. Hello?
I can hear you. I don't know if Prokopius can hear us.
Hello, Vincent? Vincent?
Yes,
Rosanna, is it working?
Yeah, you hear me now.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry, I was just looking for the icon for taking the microphone. Yeah, that was a question for Reina. So I found basically all this presentation very interesting, but I was willing to understand, as a SME, where are we supposed to be in the partner, associate, and friends groups from Sparta, and where she would advise us to be, and what would be our main interest somehow to be part of this group, because looking at their website, I could not find much SMEs there today. So maybe I'm missing something. So that's a question for Reina.
Thank you. Annika, should I answer this in the Q&A session, just to leave the floor for a specific question to Nicholas, or how do you want me to address this?
I think to me, this was actually, when I saw the question, it's more of a general question actually to all the pilots, because I feel like, yes, this is there are very nice roadmaps and ideas and plans, but where does it get concrete? Like, how can we really ensure that SMEs are involved? So
yeah,
I don't mind if it's from Reina or Nicholas, but
to be honest, I was raising the question to Reina, but it's true that the question is valid for everyone. I would think.
Sure. So no, just Annika, let me know, like, do we leave room for a specific question on Concordia now, and we address this just afterwards in the Q&A, after Prokopius has spoken, like, just let me know, how we manage this, and feel free.
I think it's perfect. If you don't want to answer now, we can see if Nicholas wants to answer the question, and then otherwise we can discuss it later in the Q&A if everyone feels shy about this question.
I can answer the question, but first, can I hear the question again, because there is a bit of noise in the audio. Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. So the question is basically where innovative SME should apply, and for which services, and under which condition. So maybe that's a global and large question that would eventually request some for you, ladies and gentlemen, to take your time to answer. I don't know, because to be honest, as a SME, I have followed 5 or 6 different organization presentation, which is a huge amount of information to collect. And the main question after this presentation is where should I be driven and which door to knock. And, you know, honestly, I'm a little bit lost, but no one of you is to be blamed for that. It's because there are 6 different or 5 different organizations which are quite complex by each of them. So I'm just wondering, where should I knock and at which condition and for which services? Sorry if the question is.
Thank you so much, Vincent, for this to the point practical question. Thank you so much.
Well, if I make an attempt on the question, I guess it depends. First of all, I don't know if you are involved in one of these projects.
I'm sorry, I have some difficulties to hear you. I guess you're
Nicholas, you're breaking. Yeah. Your network
maybe I
connection
understood
is
that you are not
patchy.
involved in one of these projects, so you're trying to see where you align better. There is either from Cyberwatch. Sorry. Okay.
Still
So there are different events happening, and can you hear me, or is there some?
I guess it's still difficult to hear.
Yeah, okay. So there is, as I said, there is different events happening. I think yes, you can collect a lot of information, but eventually you need to find what besides what differentiates your SME from other SMEs. You need to see what is missing. So if you need help on scaling, or if you need help to grow to the next level, maybe you need to attach or talk to one of the projects that has access to a lot of incubators or accelerators or something like that. If you need more help on the idea, or on the how do you differentiate from the other SMEs, from the other startups, I mean, then maybe you can partner with university and get access to some researchers that have new ideas and they don't know how to do the whole market thing. So you can bring in some some expertise from the market point of view, like coming up with the business model, and attach some research ideas into your team. I'm not sure where, let's say, the problem exists, but if it is a totally new idea that hasn't reached the market yet, there is some typical steps that you gotta go through, of course, as a startup. I don't think it's relevant to talk about that right now, but at least from the point of view of Concordia, what we are trying to do is come up with some basic steps that either a European project down the road or a general company in cybersecurity, maybe as your company, can follow down the road to get to a better level, either with respect to market, capturing better portion of the market, engaging more users, and so on. I don't know if that answers anything with your question. I think so, but yeah.
Thank you so much, Nicholas, for giving this a try. Let's hand over to Prokopius to give him the chance to have his presentation, and then we can still have some more answers coming in afterwards. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for giving me the floor, and also many thanks to the colleagues for their very insightful interventions up now. I will try and summarize what has been already discussed and presented by James, Stelian, Matteo, or Rayana, and Nicholas, and try to link all this with the vision, or what how could all this relate and be of use in the EU Cybersecurity Competence Centre, and a little bit to the two other instruments that were briefly mentioned at the beginning by James. So we've heard about the funding, managed funding and funding opportunities under the Horizon Europe and Digital Europe programs, mainly with regards to other cybersecurity aspects or cybersecurity related calls. And then we heard from each of the four pilot projects, and I'm just going to briefly mention some keywords here. Work with regards to the community, with regards to roadmap and strategic recommendation and identification priorities, the specific focus and emphasis on SMEs with regards to both their cybersecurity posture and also with regards to training, awareness and education. We heard about the cyber ranges, training in general, not only focused on the SMEs, cyber ranges again, and then education, training, and of course awareness. We also heard some activities related to certification and uptake of certification or certified or certification of product, services and processes. So if somebody looks or hears about all these bullet points or activities conducted, so bullet points of activities conducted up to now from these four pilot projects, and goes through the regulation established, the EU Cybersecurity Competence Centre, the National Coordination Network and the Cybersecurity Competence Community, he or she will most likely identify an alignment of these activities or see how the tasks prescribed and described within the regulation for the center, the community, and the national coordination centers can leverage all this experience and expertise acquired all these years for the four pilot projects. And I think towards that direction, and this is just a personal impression and opinion, I think that towards this direction we can clearly see the added value and the benefits from these four pilot projects all this time towards the realization and the implementation in a couple of months, since the regulation has already entered into effect, of the tasks and activities foreseen by the co-legislators with regards to the competence center. So apart from the managing and funding of the cybersecurity aspects of the Horizon Europe and Digital Europe programs, again, my personal perspective as still the center through its governing board should be able to identify and prescribe more specifically the activities and the tasks of the center and translate them from what is there in the regulation to more tangible actions. I think that we should also take into account and not forget about the bottom-up and reverse approach that both can be seen in the regulation. So the center should not be perceived only as an entity located in Bucharest with a governing board, but we should also see a little bit underneath in the cybersecurity competence community, across European instrument, a community with a specific focus on cybersecurity, comprising of a very diverse but also inclusive group of stakeholders, and now also the national coordination centers, where each one is located or will be located, will be established and will be nominated by each member state. So each member state will have a national coordination center. So in my mind, when thinking of how this center and its activities should look in the future, I consider that this could be identification of priorities coming from the center itself in Bucharest, but also from the national coordination centers and the community, either locally or at the European level. So it will be a mix and match of identification of priorities, needs and actions to be taken, both at the European and also at a national level. And I think this is one of the added values of the added values that should be exploited further in terms of the strategic identification of strategic priorities, training, cyber ranges, community building, education, and raising awareness. And concluding, just drawing from one of the questions raised at the beginning, one of the colleagues participating raised a question with regards to the cyber threats or ransomware attacks that SMEs are currently exposed to and are facing. So perhaps, and this is just an indication or an example, try to highlight the added value that the center, the network, and the community could bring, is that since each member state might already have a way to address, or national communities or national cybersecurity authorities might already have come up with a way to address this challenge with regards to the local SMEs. The added value of the center could be to, first of all, highlight this initiative and amplify this in the other 26 member states. So member states that might not have already something in place could also benefit. Or the other way around, the center could identify that indeed something like this is missing. So through the national coordination centers and the community could amplify towards 27 member states a very targeted initiative with regards to promoting awareness, education in the long term, and perhaps skills development in the long term for SMEs or for a specific sector with regards to a specific cybersecurity threat that they had foreseen or they are currently seeing that is emerging. So I hope this conclusion was rather inclusive with regards to my personal overview of the center, the national coordination centers and the community, and what the distinguished speakers had already presented. Annika, I will now give the floor back to you just to get some interaction with the participants. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much to everyone for the presentations. Yeah, let's take the questions from the floor that are still open. So I would suggest we start with Ms. Izard Canyameres, who had a question about the possibility to connect with the community, if there will be some kind of platform. And he addressed, she addressed the question to Mr. James Galan-Jones. Rosanna, could we give the floor to Izard Canyameres to ask her question directly?
From our side, we'll need to unmute ourselves.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, sorry, I thought, yes, we can hear you.
Don't worry, the name is confusing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, sorry, because this question was I write it at the beginning of the presentation. The thing was I was interested in knowing how to participate, right? And I just was saying, okay, is there any place where the community itself is represented? And if there is such a place, how can we appear in this representation, and what can we expect as being represented there? I mean, can we expect that some projects will come to us depending in if we have a profile there and they find it interesting, or can we expect some matchmaking being, I don't know, some events will use that representation of the community to gather participants, or you know, which is the kind of interaction with the rest of the community we can expect as being part of such a community, I don't know, showcasing place, if there's such a thing.
Thank you so much for the question. James, do you feel this is appropriate for you to answer?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for the question, and a very practical but very important one, actually. At the moment, we don't have a platform per se for the community to interact in, but that could be a solution in the future. But if you would want to get involved, I guess the first step would be, depending on where your organization is implanted, to check what your national coordination center is. So what the plan is going to be is the center will have a database, or just a kind of a receptacle of the 27 national coordination centers, and they would have then functional mailbox you could contact. That would be, I would suspect, an initial way to get in touch with the community. And then, of course, on a more ad hoc basis, depending on which projects there are, etc., there are going to be regular events. So the idea is to have kind of a matchmaking initiatives in that sense, where we could regroup people and companies and organizations from across Europe. So that would happen, whether it's online or in person. I think time will tell with the current situation. But definitely, your suggestion of a platform is definitely in the thinking at the moment. I don't know if the pilots want to contribute based on your experience as well in building ecosystems. But yeah, the idea would be the national coordination centers have a platform to engage in, and on a more ad hoc basis, there would be events.
Thank you, James. Yes, let's see if the pilots want to jump in.
Yes. I'd just like to add something.
Yes.
I think everything should be seen on the life cycle of all these pilot projects. So definitely what is clear from these presentations is that Europe has a strategic agenda on cybersecurity. We are now in the phase of mapping different heterogeneous initiatives, because we need for the future a strong alignment of different initiatives, let's say on different projections. Definitely in this strategic alignment, and including European priorities and national priorities, these national contact or competence centers will play a crucial role. But as I mentioned in my intervention, we should not forget the initiative of having regional competence hubs on cybersecurity. In these competence hubs, we can have two kinds of stakeholders: SMEs that would benefit of training, consultancy, advising on one side, and those that can contribute to strengthen the capacity of the European ecosystem of cybersecurity. So depending where the SME is situated, they can adopt different actions to be part in these initiatives. Nevertheless, once this organization, these institutions will be established and will have the budget and will have identified priorities, actions will be undertaken to finance research and innovation projects. In this scheme, we have to see that everything will, as I mentioned, will be done in partnerships, in consortia. So SMEs should have a close look to, let's say, all these activities, and in the future they will maybe benefit more consistently of this initiative. But nevertheless, till that moment, they have to stay close to these pilot projects, because they are organizing different events, workshops on topics related with cybersecurity and capacity building, institutional building, and they will better understand, let's say, this sophisticated construction, and then of course they will benefit. And I also encourage very much the SMEs to become members of the European Digital SME Alliance, because from my perspective, and I say that truly European Digital SME Alliance is a focal it's a gateway for bringing to SMEs these pieces of information, and including at operational level, they have working groups, including cybersecurity. So I encourage to follow this path. If we consider SMEs that would like to benefit of solutions, nevertheless, these pilot projects are in close connection with different other innovation and research projects that are dealing with the development of such solutions. And through this network, they can become adopters of affordable solutions, not only technical side, but also I'm talking about education and training. Thank you.
Thank you, Stelian. Let's see if the others want to jump in as well.
Yeah, I would like to add in a few words, if possible.
Yes, please.
Thanks. So this like loops back to the question Olivier, I think, asked earlier about how to get involved with the pilots. While speaking for Sparta and building upon what Nicolas very eloquently outlined earlier, for Sparta, when you are on the website sparta.eu, there is a button join us. So just click on it and you land on a page where the different options for partnerships are presented. So you can basically, especially in light of what Nicolas was explaining and what also Stelian just said, see basically which aspect of interactions is important or relevant to you and in your company. As for getting, if you like, more bigger involvement for SMEs in general, not specifically with the partners, but with the competence center, my guess is we'll need to do this very organically, and to also have very strong support from national level, from Nccs, and to channel basically brokerage events and more generally initiatives and goodwill towards something that is inherently co-construction at the European level. And obviously it is a complex thing to do because there are requirements, there are programs to be managed, but also because we don't have the same needs or the same maturity, locally and regionally. But there is also, so I think my colleagues from the Commission and from ENISA will be much better suited here. There are also regional initiatives that can be a very good stepping stone because they really are familiar with a specific area of a country and its economic tissue. So that can be a very interesting and useful entry point, and then of course, I mean, if you see us at an event, just stop and say hi and ask questions, don't be shy, sort of thing. But that's how we build things, and it's also difficult from our side to reach out and to know who can be interested. So just just like you did, ask a question, and of course join Digital SME Alliance.
Thank you, Rainer. Thank you so much. So we're coming to the end of this session. 2 hours passed really quickly. I understand from the questions that we got that there are these remaining issues in terms of how to connect, how to really make this practical, like SMEs. Honestly, like when you hear the sort of acronyms, this seems really far away from the practical business of a company, right? So we have to make this effort to ensure that this is not just something that stays there as a project, but that really connects to the market and both the supply and the demand side, because we do have these really innovative SMEs in Europe that are providing cybersecurity solutions, and these are the ones we need to work with if we want to increase the overall level of cybersecurity and resilience. So yeah, I think it's interesting to really see this discussion between you, like the pilot projects, and the SMEs about how can we actually become involved and connect. So maybe that's something to take away. And generally, I would like to give everyone the opportunity to make a very, very brief statement. We're at the end already, but if we can take like a few minutes more, just so everyone can have a final word, say something that maybe you wanted to still address. So I would like to start in the order of the agenda with James, please.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay,
well.
super. No, I think very short, I'm going to answer the key takeaway of how to make this practical. I mean, to bear in mind that the pilot projects are initially pilot projects, they're contributing towards the work that will then become the work of the center. And the Digital Europe program hasn't been adopted yet. So it's very difficult for us to give firm, say, not commitments, but firm assurances on how exactly this will look like. But then, as was said by Rainer, and as I said earlier, I think going through the Nccs, I know this the acronym, but essentially the member states organization that will be representing the specific countries in the center, would be good to go through them. And in due course, as the center is slowly being set up, at least from our perspective, that will be able to give us more practical guidance to be given to companies, especially on the type of funding. And the key here to remember is that the center will not just be managing EU funds. It will be in touch with the member states who can co-finance certain projects, and also with industry. So I think if we go to venture capital as well, that will be able to have some very good synergies there. But again, it's too early to tell concretely how that will be worked out. But to keep that in mind. So if we can update you, the Digital SME Alliance, and then you can go to your members and companies. I think also that's a very good conduit to communicate. So that's all I'm going to say. But thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much, Stelian.
Yeah, thank you. Very short. Just what I recommend to SMEs is to stay close to this initiative. So they have to have patience and see this construction, because nothing is happening overnight. We are building up now an atlas, a catalog of to see what is happening actually, to know exactly who is and could become responsible of something, with what kind of good practices we can undertake and build up these synergic activity actions in Europe. So through this, definitely SMEs will benefit for the resources on cybersecurity, and they will become good players, because as I mentioned in one of my slides, the engagement of the private sector is one of the important pillars in this construction. Thank you.
Thank you, Stelian. Rainer?
Yeah, thank you. So thanks much for the invitation and for the interesting questions. I think the questions kind of translate, what we need to do in the future, which is hearing that sort of very practical questions and, learning on them. And on the other side, teaching also, or if you like, raising awareness outside of the research and innovation area to SMEs, to the private sector, that there are things that cannot be compressed in time, that cannot be compressed in complexity. So, we have to do with that. However, there are things that can be done much more easily. And, I see this in a kind of schizophrenic, if you like, situation, since I come from the private sector, and I'm also in Sparta and a recovering scientist, so I can see the frustrations from from each side, and that's why just talk to us and ask us those questions so that we can give feedback to institutional partners, and also continue raising awareness about things that we cannot change even if we'd like to. So yeah, talk to us, emails, LinkedIn, whatever you name it, and don't be shy to ask questions and join the efforts.
Thank you so much, Rainer. Nicolas.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned what CONCORDIA is doing. I think we will be trying to engage with more SMEs. We have a newsletter. If people are interested, let us know. We have what we call the PEX app community, which is a newsletter for SMEs and other key stakeholders. We do have leads to various incubators and accelerators, and if there is an interest from the audience and from other SMEs, maybe we can help them out. But in general, one of the goals of CONCORDIA, especially on this topic, is to construct this, let's say, process, this innovation funnel that other European projects can use down the road regarding cybersecurity, where an idea can finally find its way into the market. So hopefully this process and these resources will be useful to anybody in the audience and beyond. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Prokopios, the final word.
Yes, so it's not fair that the final word comes from me, but trying again to summarize and again give my what I fully agree with all the other speakers have said. So indeed, the pilot seems to be at this moment in time a very good approach toward understanding and linking with the future activities of the center until the center is fully operational and let's say embodies or undertakes in a good way all these activities. Personally, I think that it makes more than sense. So it's a no-brainer that whatever the community, whichever the community or the activities already performed and established by the pilots is gradually moved towards the center one way or another. So linking now with the pilots would only ensure in a way that somebody stays connected and up to date with what the future activities of the center will be. And lastly, with regards to the center per se, I think that the center, through the funding programs or the other activities, will not only come with answers, but also with a number of questions regarding priorities, needs, etc. So perhaps the recipients or the stakeholders should also be prepared to feed in to the center towards the identification of future activities, future actions, and future priorities. So this is, in my mind, the only way that an initiative such as the center, the National Coordination Network, and the communities will be successful in the long term.
Okay, great. Thank you. With this, with your final comments, I would like to close this workshop. And there were still a couple of questions, so I'll take the liberty to send them on towards you. So maybe you could also reply to per email if that's okay. And yeah, thank you so much for your time and for being here and explaining what you're doing and putting it in the context. That was really, really helpful. So thank you so much and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.